Everyone, Michelle here, and I'm here with Joseph and Cynthia.
Hey, everyone.
Woohoo! We just had epic weekend.
Epic. Ugh.
Yeah, right. Joseph came in Friday and taught a 4:30 class, which could have been 100 people, but I think it was like
It was
90.
It counted 88.
88.
Yeah.
Okay, it was crazy awesome. And then after that, we did a BYSJ Presents, and Joseph had a chance to talk about his story and about the 8 limbs of yoga, and that was so interesting. I want to dive into that in a second. But then we also had an amazing workshop the next day from 12 to 4, and then we just got done right now, which is why I look this way. We just had a ton of kids here doing an hour of kids, and this guy was doing handstands, walking around with all the kids, and he had them doing sun salutations, he had them doing crane, camel, handstands.
They did so well.
So great.
They were so good.
So thank you so much for
Thank you,
being here.
Michelle.
You know, one of the themes that was so cool that you pointed out was, and you did it again and again and again, was the idea of intention and then intensity with that. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
You know, I think a strong yoga foundation, it has to have intention. If, you know, you can go into the room every day and, you know, in the beginning of one's yoga practice, you have, this is the reason why I want to do yoga.
Yeah.
But once that reason is kind of overcame, or you overcome that reason, you become stronger, then, you know, you got to find another reason. Otherwise, the practice, excuse me for saying, can be like dust collecting dust. And in a practice that's very consistent like we do, you have to have fresh intentions of what you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's not always physical. Sometimes it could be more of a mental state or an emotional state. But I find that intention is the same as intensity. They have the same root in words, and without intention, there's no intensity behind the effort. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to find a reason without an intention. But when you have an intention, like today, I need to work on my mind, need to like calm it down, need to focus, and the intensity will follow you in class. Like, stay with the group, stay with your breath, follow the
Right.
dialogue. You know, your intention can be I have a bad back, I have a bad knee, and then in class, you know, the intensity comes with don't give up, do it again.
Yeah.
So I find that without intention, and it's always changing. Like it's consistently changing for me, and now in my 14th year of practice, I'm like trying to find a new intention because I've been doing this for so long. I find that without it, it's tough to keep the inspiration.
Yeah.
And intention, intensity, inspiration. I mean, just look at all those words.
Right,
They're all
right.
rooted in the same.
Yeah, those are motivational drivers in you too. And I think we forget about that because the class, especially Bikram, is repetitive with the same thing every day. You can go on that automatic pilot, maybe a little bit easier than some other yoga disciplines. So to remind yourself.
Yeah, personally,
Right.
I have to consistently remind myself because of that. And I find, you know, when I travel and do workshops that it's a good message to share with students
Yeah.
because, you know, they're not the only ones feeling sometimes plateaued in their practice. As a yoga champion, I feel plateaued sometimes, not with my practice, but with the intention of my practice, you know?
You know, it was really cool, if you don't mind me saying,
Sure.
is when you said that you had to sit down like 3 times in like one of the last classes
Yeah, that was
you
last
took with Georgia.
Wednesday,
You could feel everybody's
12
like
p.m.
face
noon.
like drop, like even Joseph has to sit.
Yeah, it was freaking humid. And she was on me like white on rice. And my teacher right now, currently in New York City, is Georgia Balajan. I take her class consistently, and she's one of the most senior teachers in the country.
Yeah.
And at the age of 72,
You're amazing, Georgia.
She knows how to like whip a young guy like me in shape to the point where I gotta take a knee, and I'm like okay with it. Like it's triangle second set. I'm like I'm going down, and you know I like doing that as a teacher, as a champion, as a student.
Yeah.
And not that I like to sit
Right,
down,
right,
but I like to
right.
face that
Yeah.
and to get into that because I think sometimes the pressure could be like. You can't be that good at yoga if you sit down. I'm like, look,
Right.
you know, it's not about being good or bad. It's
Right.
about just willing to go through the
Right.
experience. And
Right.
some days that's it. And I honestly love doing that when I have to, not because I have to, but because of the reaction I get from the students around me in the class. And they see like, oh my God, the champion is sitting down, the teacher's sitting down. And I say, look, you know, I encourage you to stay up in class, but I understand when you have to take
Yeah.
a knee, you got to take a knee.
Right.
So in practice, I think just be real, like, and that's what keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
It's not like you're trying to control the outcome of like, I'm not going to sit
Yeah.
down. I'm going to do every single posture. For me, I find that being fresh, you know, having a strong intention And sometimes that brings a lot of intensity, and it takes you to that edge, you know, and you deal with it.
Yeah.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah, I think it kind of shows that extent that you're going to go, and then you're not going to let the ego control it. That's like a good, valuable lesson for everybody in the room.
Yeah.
Which leads me to, you talked about a lot at the BYSJ Presents to your own ability now of acceptance. Which I thought was so good too, because we are here in the Valley, you're in New York City, the amount of pressure that is on people, that is on kids, and I think that there's always this, like, what am I supposed to be? The shoulds, right? I should do this, you know, I should be working harder, I should get that promotion, right? And just to sit back and, like, maybe share a little bit how the yoga practice, even a pose, can build acceptance, or a way to sort of detach from some of the daily pressures that we feel.
Oh, wow, that's a deep question.
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, wow, okay, how do I answer that? You know, acceptance and how it allows us to get away from the daily pressures. I find that in the yoga posture, well, every day when you do an asana, you eat in differently, you drink differently, you slept differently. So whatever's happening that day is specifically for that day, for that moment. And accepting and not trying to control it has been, for me, that's been a big part of the practice. And what was the other part of your question?
Well, you know, I think you also were elaborating on withdrawing from the senses, that ability.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think that's part of it too.
Well, you know, I find a lot of students in learning to accept, also, it helps you to realize the difference between things like suffering and struggling.
Yeah.
You know, acceptance is okay, and sometimes the class is a struggle, sometimes the practice is a struggle. I mean, yoga is a practice that dives right into your mind, body, and spirit. So when you feel the struggle, to accept it and to realize, okay, yes, my limbs are burning.
Yeah.
Literally, my muscles are on fire from the heat of the room, or the engagement and the posture, or my mind is a little dizzy all over the place. And in those struggles, that's a really good time to view it and to accept it.
Yeah.
And to be like, this is what it is. Now, can I do another 10 seconds in the yoga posture? Sure. And then the person does another 10 seconds and they realize, okay, I can grow from accepting that it is difficult, it is a struggle. And, you know, once you see that, it gives them more power, a student, myself, or anyone else I see, to go further into it.
Yeah.
The thing is, you know, if you're suffering, then leave for a moment, you know, like take a knee, drink some water, you know, eat healthy later in the evening, come back tomorrow. So when it comes to acceptance, I like to also consider the difference between suffering and struggling.
Yeah.
Suffering is not a great thing to always do in class, and if you're suffering, accept that and take care of that outside of the yoga room. If you're struggling, I say embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace it in the yoga class and try to work through it and tell yourself you could do another 10 more seconds. So, like, understand that if you're, in terms of acceptance, you feel that dizzy, lightheaded feeling, is it a struggle, or are you really about to, like, you know, lose your breakfast? If you are, then you're suffering, sit down. Have some water, run to the restroom.
Keep your breakfast, please.
You know, but if you're struggling, you have to look at that and not think, okay, this is not really suffering. This is like a physical struggle, an emotional struggle. I'm in control, and if you can contemplate it, that helps you to accept it and to own it and then to grow from it.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I'm hearing like that's kind of, you know, you're telling them to still show up. Right?
Still show up.
Wow.
That's it, yeah.
So one last thing, you've met so many great people while you were here, is there any one thing that you would tell somebody who's struggling so much, or is a new student, or, you know, just a piece of advice that's coming off the top of your head, or?
Well, it doesn't come from me. It's a quote, a famous Iyengar quote. Yoga teaches you to endure what need not be cured, and to cure what doesn't have to be endured. Hold on. Let's say that again. Yoga teaches you to cure what need not be endured, and to endure what you cannot cure.
Yes.
That's
that's potent. Yeah. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank
you have to come again next week, okay?
Next week. All right. See you guys in a week.
Bye.